Hello, and welcome to another episode of Unlocking the Writer Within. My name is Coach Kochek, and I help people share their stories and express their thoughts, feelings, ambitions, and emotions in a captivating way. And today, I am going to talk about how to get your writing published today, right now. And I want to start off by saying that to really start to get your writing published and to start sharing your writing on a larger platform, one of the main characteristics that it takes is resourcefulness. And then I kind of want to add that it also takes persistence, because a lot of times the dream is, especially if you're a writer and you're creating something, the dream is that I am writing something that's so fantastic and everybody should read it. So you are really excited about your writing and you think that everybody wants to read it and it's great. And of course, it should be published, it's quality. But a lot of times what happens is that the journey to get your writing published on a bigger platform can be a long journey, which is why there's so many options that you can use, like I said, today to start getting your writing just out there. And I think a large part of it too is building your confidence and making yourself more comfortable with allowing people to read what you have written. So a lot of times there is a underlying fear of sharing something that we write, right? It's almost like what we write becomes our baby, because a lot of times if you are a true writer and you're a true creative, you're not just writing, you're sharing something that's really close to what you believe, your experiences, especially if what you're writing is specifically vulnerable. It can be hard just to throw your writing out there into the masses and to let people read it and respond to it, because it becomes such a part of you, such a part of yourself. So I want to talk about the things that you can do. And the first part that I'm going to talk about if you have shorter things that you want to share, like articles. So I'm not going to go into books per se. I'm going to save that for the second half. So the first half, I'm just going to talk about if you have articles, if you have something between 500 to 1,200 words, even going to 2,000 words that you want to share, like an article that is dedicated to one subject. How can you start getting that put on a larger platform? So the first thing is just the easiest thing, because it's free and it's what we use on a regular basis, and that is social media, right? So if you've already created somewhat of a following on your social media platforms, a great way for you to just start sharing some of your writing is to just put it on your social media channels, right? And that can be obviously Facebook. You can do it on Instagram. LinkedIn is a great place to post your writing, or you can do it on Twitter. Now, I know with Instagram and Twitter, you have a word limit, which sometimes can feel limiting. But I know for me, using Instagram, I usually post a longer writing that I'm doing on Instagram, and I'll let Instagram show me where it's going to cut me off, and it makes me become more concise with what I'm trying to say. So it actually gets rid of a lot of the wordiness, because I know I only have this max amount of words, where if I just put it on Facebook, it's going to let me go however long I want to go. So using just social media platforms and letting people comment and respond and engage with your writing can be a really great way for you to build confidence. I know sometimes there's been specific things that I want to say. I've gotten into a discussion with somebody and I'm like, man, I think I want to write something about this. And I put it on a social platform and I just see how people are able to engage with the content that I've written. And it gives me so much encouragement as a writer, because that's really why I'm writing. And that's another thing, like really getting clear with why you're writing. Like there's one thing to write just to say, well, I want to write because I want to be well known, or I want a lot of people to see my writing. There's nothing wrong with having that motivation. But there's something different that happens when you write, because you really have something that you want to share, because you want to help other people. And then when your writing achieves that goal, it can really build your confidence. So that's the first thing that you can do. And that can kind of just get your feet wet into getting you used to sharing your writing on a larger platform, besides just letting it sit in your folder, in your documents, right? And if you're like most writers, your writing either stays in your head, in conversations, or it stays in your saved files within your computer. So this is a way just to kind of getting your writing out and having people engage with it. The second thing that you can do, and this is specifically for people who write fiction, if you're somebody that finds yourself just writing short stories all the time, or you're developing stories, there are so many online platforms that you can use to just start posting your stories. And I'm going to give you a few websites, but I'm telling you there are so many, which goes back to resourcefulness. If you simply go on google.com right now and you just type in online writing sharing platforms, it'll come up with at least 50. I mean, that was just my experience, page upon page. So here's a few that you can use. There's something called Wattpad, which is Wattpad. And the beautiful part about this is that when you go on there, you can share your writing. And this community boasts over 65 million users, right? And they're either people who just want to go on there and read stories, or there's other writers. So not only are you getting like readers, you're also getting other writers in there who then are able to comment on your stories, are able to engage with what you're writing, and also give you feedback. And this is specifically for people who are writing fiction. And maybe you're like, I'm at this place in my short story, I need to develop my character, and you put it on there and you can solicit feedback from other writers and from readers to engage with your writing. Another website, which is called Inkitt, Inkitt, and I'm going to put all of these in the description so you can have access to them. The difference between Wattpad and Inkit is that Inkit is very similar in that you can put your writing out there, but the beautiful thing about this is that if your story is getting a lot of traction and a lot of feedback and people are really loving what they're reading, Inkit will then allow you to actually publish your story. They'll give you access to make your story either an ebook, an online book, or they'll print it. They'll publish it through the site, which is really cool. And the beautiful thing about that is that it is proof of concept. So you're publishing something that's already been proven that people want to read it and people want to hear it. So that's another site. There's a site called Storybird, which if you are artistic in nature beyond just writing and you like images, this site allows you not only to post your writing, but you can post images that go with it. So it's almost like becomes a visual, you can get into the visual aspect of writing too, which I thought was really fun. And then there's a site called Alterstories.com. And Alterstories is a way for you to collaborate even further than what you can get on Wattpad and Inkit, because the purpose of this site is for you to add stories to or add portions to other people's writing. So you are putting your writing out there and you are asking other people to collaborate, like to add to your stories. Now, some writers might not like that. Some writers might think, no, I want my story to be my story. I don't want you to add anything, which is totally fine. But if you're someone that just, not only do you want your writing published, but you want to engage with it, you want other people to collaborate with you, it's just a fun exercise to get you writing. There's also, I want to focus on these two websites as well, because these two are a larger usage website, which is medium.com and Quora.com. Both of these websites, now medium.com is a paid, you do a paid membership and it's as little as $5 a month. But the good part about this is that when you're sharing your articles, you are sharing it with a community that's already on that, using that website, because they are looking to read quality articles that are they can be nonfiction articles. A lot of them are like personal stories that you're sharing. They can be like blog type articles. So Medium and Quora are two really great places for you to share your articles as well. And once again, all of this is just a way for you to really get your feet wet into the publication of your writing and just getting it out there in front of an audience so you can see people engage with your writing. So also, as a writer, one thing that's really great is understanding like who am I attracting with my writing? Because a lot of times when we write, we really don't know like who our ideal audience is, or we can think we know. But until you actually get it out there and see people engage with it and see how people are responding to it, it's a guessing game. But the more that you're putting your stuff out there and the more that you're getting feedback, the more that you'll understand who is my ideal audience and what do they want to hear right? A lot of times as writers, we can get so bogged down by what we like and the subject matter that we want to write about that we forget about our readers. And the thing is that the more that you get out there and the more that you see how people respond to what you're writing, you'll figure out what are your readers really wanting to hear about? What are they really wanting to know? And that helps you even get more focused with your own writing and what you are an expertise at as far as writing is concerned. So you can do all of those just to kind of put your, just to get your feet wet. Another thing you can do is to create a space for you to consistently release your own writing is you can create an online blog. This is super simple because you can use websites like Wix.com or you can use WordPress, and they have specific websites that you can outline to create a blog. It is templated for you to just do blogs. So if you know that you want to hone your writing onto one subject, and it's really important that if you're writing for a blog, that you're specializing in one or two subjects. Like you don't just want to do a blog where it's just like you're throwing all of these disconnected articles on there. Because a lot of times people will continuously go back to a blog because they like your writing style and they like your subject matter. So if you know that you want to write a blog for parents, specifically for other mothers, right? That's kind of your subject matter. So then all the articles that you're releasing are then aligned with that one subject matter, right? So you can create a blog and then just consistently release your writing every day, once a week. You kind of get to determine how you want to release the types of articles and how often you want to do them. And you can get creative with it, right? And it's your space. So this is kind of a way if you want to release your writing, but you want to control the space and you want to control what you're releasing. That's a great way for you to maintain your full creative control. It's just by creating your own space and then working to build your own audience, right? And there's a whole slew of strategies and tips that you can get that will show you how do you build an online audience with a blog. So you can do a blog. If you start establishing yourself as a blog writer, then what you can do is reach out to other established blog writers who are within your niche and guest blog on their blog, right? So now you're sharing your information with another blog who has an established audience, and they say, oh, I've never heard of who's Amy Kochek. This is great. And then that's how you get people to come back to your blog and read your articles, right? So that's just like a strategy of setting up your own creative stage for writing, but then also tapping into other people's stages where they've built their own audience, and it becomes a very collaborative effort. And I want to encourage you, as you are publishing and as you are like trying to get into the writing world, find other people who are already doing it. Get their strategies, get their ideas. How did they do it? How did they make it? If they're consistently publishing in larger publications, if they have a very established blog, ask them questions, see if they'll help you out. A lot of times when it comes to writers and people who are creatives, they want to share, they want to help. So I would suggest also reaching out. If you're a consumer, if you read other people's stuff all the time, contact them, make comments underneath, be active on their page so that when you actually do reach out and contact them, they already know you as somebody who's present on their platform. Now, I want to talk about bigger online publications, especially online magazine publications like you have Time, Forbes, Fortune, Business Insider, Slate, Entrepreneur Magazine. So many of these online, they used to obviously be magazines that you would go and purchase, but now pretty much all publications are online. And a lot of these publications are looking for submissions. Okay, so the first thing that you can do is if you know you have expertise in specific areas that would benefit online publications, go to these online publications, and on their website, they'll have a space that talks about how you can submit articles or ideas for articles to them. And each publication is going to be different. For instance, if you're looking at Inc magazine might have you, they might want to know your bio. They might want to know what would be some headlines that you would write. Give us one 500 word essay that you think would be great for our publication and send it in. Okay, so that's how ink submission might be. Another submission might be, we don't want a full essay. All we want is a headline and pitch it to us. Give us a 5-line pitch. Okay, so underneath each one of the online publications that you look for, there's going to be specific instructions for how you submit. So my suggestion is to make a list. I have a friend who has a list of all the publications he wants to be potentially published. He has a list of who the specific editor is, who's the contact, what's that person's email, you can even write in this, you can make an Excel spreadsheet. In this Excel spreadsheet, have one column of what are they looking for? How specifically do they want an article? Do they just want a headline? And just start building a list for all the publications that you're looking to get published in and what they're specifically looking for. Okay. Now when you are doing this, it's really important that you remember what I said towards the beginning. When you are submitting to online publications, you're not writing for yourself, you are writing for the reader. So if you have really great information or a really great story that you want to share in your writing, but it is not relevant to the audience that magazine attracts, then you're not going to want to submit headlines or articles that go along with you and not necessarily the reader. So another suggestion is, whatever publication you're picking, make sure you look at what's currently being published. Read some of the articles. What are the articles? Are the articles more informal in nature? Do they tell funny stories? If you're looking at entrepreneur, most of the things that you're going to be looking for are articles that are very formal in nature, and they are probably very nonfiction driven, very much giving strategies and tips to business owners. So that might not be a place where, if you're a single parent, you're talking about tips for raising your child as a single parent. It might be a great article, but it might not be appropriate for the audience that comes to read Entrepreneur Magazine. So when you're looking at online publications, get to know the tonality of the current articles that they're publishing, and what do the headlines look like? Look at their headlines, because if the submission requirements are, we don't want an article, we want a headline, that means that you really have to think about the wording that you're using for these headlines. What is the headline of my article going to be that's going to encourage their readers to click on my article, because they know that this headline is speaking to an issue that's currently going on in my life? So if you're wanting to submit, you are needing to think like a reader and not necessarily like a creative writer when you're focusing on specific publications, okay? Another thing is, and this is where persistence comes in, you might have to submit months upon months upon months before you ever get picked up. And that's where persistence really comes in. And that's where you need to figure out, having a goal of, why specifically am I doing this? Am I doing this to build credibility with myself? Am I doing this because I really think that these readers can benefit what I am writing about? So you have to have a why, because the why is essentially going to help you keep going when you get rejected. And sometimes you might not even get a rejection. Sometimes you might never hear back from that publication. So if you don't have persistence and understand that even the best of the best had to continuously get rejected, or had to continuously send in without hearing back, but because they believed in their writing and they believed that what they wanted to share needed to be shared on a bigger platform, they kept submitting. So that's another thing, is through this entire process, especially when we get down to specializing it to specific publications, you have to have persistence and you have to want it, which means you have to keep doing it. And that can be based on your Excel spreadsheet. Maybe every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, you are submitting. And you commit to it. Every Monday, every Wednesday, and every Friday, I'm going to be trying to submitting to at least 5 online publications. And you just put the work in, and you put the work in. And then once you start getting accepted, and then once you start getting published, it becomes easier, because then you start understanding the process. But just like with anything that you're learning that's new, it's a skill, it's a muscle that you're building and that you're continuously growing. So now I want to transition to, if you have a book. If you have been writing and you know that you're sitting on a manuscript, or you're sitting on the potential for a manuscript, how do you go about getting published? I'm going to be doing a whole video about self-publishing versus traditional publishing, but I'm just going to hit on this really quick. If you have something that you want to publish and you want to get it out today, the most cost-efficient way to do this. And honestly, the easiest way is to self-publish. And I know a lot of times when you hear self-publish, and this is becoming less, but there was a time when the idea of self-publish wasn't credible. Like if you were self-published, it was like, oh, that just means your book wasn't good enough to be published. Nowadays, that's not true. Because with the self-publishing, the first benefit of self-publishing is you keep 100% of your creative rights. If I sign my book over to a traditional publisher right now, they are going to get 99% of my rights. I maintain 1% of my rights. They get the rest. They can tell me this title is trash. You got to change the title. They can take full chapters out of my book. They can change the characters in my book. They can change the style of the cover of my book. They own the majority of my creative rights, right? But if I'm self-publishing, I own the majority of, or I own all my creative rights if I self-publish. Second thing is very cost efficient. The big thing is finding a really great editor and finding someone who's going to design your book cover in a way that speaks to what your book is really about. But when you're doing self-publishing, there is a site called Kindle Direct Publishing, and it is connected to Amazon, which means that when I self-publish my book, it automatically gets uploaded to Amazon. The site itself and the service itself is free. It's completely free. So KDP then becomes a place that's almost like print by demand. So I just go in there, all my stuff is uploaded, and if I want to get paperbacks that I print, I can just use that site to print my books. So let's say that I want to publish my book today. I don't want to have to go through the process of going through a traditional publisher. I can literally upload my full manuscript, my images for my book cover, and within 24 to 72 hours, my book will be live on Amazon, right? And I can go online. Once my book is live on Amazon, I can start ordering my books paperback in bulk. If I'm like a speaker and I have a speaking engagement and I want to have my books there, I can order those books and take them with me right now. I can start that process right now. And it is extremely cost efficient. And like I said, in a future video, I'll dive even deeper, but know that self-publishing is something that's quick, it is cost efficient, and you can get your stuff out now. I even talking from the standpoint of if you know that you have an idea of like creating a journal, like if you have a daily devotional you want to do, if you want to create a journal that helps people navigate grief, if you have a journal that helps people become more efficient with their time, you can you can create it today on your computer, right? So many programs that help you create canva.com. You can use Microsoft Publishing. There's so many things that you can make just to format pages. And I can upload that today, create an image, have a graphic designer create me a book cover. Once again, I can self-publish it and I can start selling it ASAP. The major thing with self-publishing is you want to make sure that you are getting an editor and somebody who formats well. Because the flip side of this is if you are understanding that you can do this quickly, but you're not doing it with quality, you can end up releasing a book, even though it's self-published, that makes you look not as credible as a writer because it's filled with grammar errors. I've seen so many people who have gone the self-publishing route, but they have not put the effort in to having somebody edit their work. And then they release a book with so many grammar errors and so many sentence structure and really just structural errors that make the book lose its punch had they not spent the money. So that's a little caveat there. If you're going to release your book and you want to start putting your book out there for self-publishing, do it. Go. What do you have to lose? What do you have to lose? You can do that today, but just make sure that you're going through the process of cleaning it up as much as possible, because you remember, like, the content is an expression of yourself. The content is an expression of who you are as a writer and the quality that you're putting out. And if you're not paying attention to that, you can put something out that does not reflect your professionalism and your ability as a writer. So the self-publishing to actually do a book, you can do an ebook. You can create an ebook, and creating an ebook can be as simple as making a document and turning it into a PDF and sending people those PDF files and creating it as an ebook. You can do that today. And ebooks are not long in nature, right? So if I create an ebook and I have something I want to share and I already have an established audience, once again, I can create that ebook by just using using a software. If you have images, use a software that allows you to use images, like the two software I just mentioned. Or if it's just simply using Word, you can type it on Word, download it as a PDF, and then send it to people as a PDF, or put it on your website if you have a website, or if you have specific email addresses, send it out to your email list. Underneath books, the last thing I'm going to talk about is that you can actually go through the process of getting a publisher. I want to make sure that you understand this. All publishers, just like I talked about last week with ghostwriters, all publishers are not created equally. There are a lot of publishers out there who are taking advantage of people who don't understand the publishing and the self-publishing industry, and they are overcharging them, and they are not giving them a quality product when they are done. So a lot of times, people who go the publishing route could have done so much better just going the self-publishing route and saved themselves at least $10,000. Because a lot of times, a person can say they're a publisher and they're simply taking your story, and some of them are providing you editing services at a higher cost. They're promising certain things that they cannot deliver upon. Even when it comes to marketing, a lot of publishers are using the same channels that you're using as far as social media. So if you already have a social media following, or the ability to even build a social media following, you can take control of that. So a lot of these publishers are not offering the quality that they are promising, and really are not offering much beyond what you can do as a self-publisher. So make sure that you do your homework when you are going through a publisher. Make sure that you are asking the right questions, and I'll go over that in the video that I'm going to do next week on publishing versus self-publishing. If you are picking, if you are going to submit to larger publishers, and you know that these are credible publishers, and these are publishers that aren't just taking your book and helping you print it and letting you go forth. These are people who are going to be looking at your book and giving you some sort of advance, a financial advance, because they're going to publish your book. When you're going that route and you are going to a higher level publisher, you're going to have to write something called a query letter, which means that with the query letter is where you're going to have a description of your book. You're going to have the outline of your book, what's in your chapters. You're pretty much selling the book. You are telling the publisher, this is why you want to publish this book. But at the same time, you are one in literally millions who are sending this book. I know a lot of times we think, I'm going to send my manuscript to the publisher and they're going to read it and know how awesome my content is. And of course they're going to publish it because my content is awesome. Publishers don't read full books. Imagine if a publisher had to sit down and read full manuscripts before they publish. No, it's almost like a resume, right? You have to send pretty much a book resume first that says, this is who I am, this is my book, this is what it looks like, this is why you should publish it. So actually going through the publishing process, out of all the things I mentioned, is probably the longest and the most work. So if you are thinking of putting your work out and you are just depending on publishing it with a big publisher, you're missing out on a lot of really great opportunities to get your work seen today and start getting an audience engaged in it. And especially if you're thinking about putting out a book and you're putting out that book to your audience, but you haven't allowed your audience to even see your content, it can be harder for you to then market it. But if your audience is already consuming your words and your audience is already reading your articles or their blogs or your social media posts, and you've already got them hooked, by the time you come out with something bigger like a book, they're already ready. They're already ready to invest and tell their friends about it and share. So that's the benefit of starting to get into the mode of putting out work today that is reflective of the types of words that you use in your writing style, because people are going to be connected to your writing style. And the most important thing is be confident in what you are writing. Don't write based on what everybody else is releasing. Be true to yourself and be true to what you think is a necessity to be heard in this day and age. Whatever information you're sharing, be true to who you are as a writer, and then also get intimate with your readers. Know who your readers are. Know what they want to hear. Know the language they want to hear it in, and allow your genuine nature to align with that. so that your readers can continue to seek you out. So either way, I encourage you today, start putting out your stuff today. We need to read it. We need to hear it. It's been put in your heart and your mind for a reason. And for some of you, it's on paper. It's saved for a reason. So let it come out. Don't wait for the perfect opportunity. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Just start putting it out and start seeing what happens. And if you don't see immediate results, that's okay. Keep doing it. That's the name of the game. That's the name of the creativity game, is we put our creativity out there and then we let it do what it needs to do. And our job is just to be in alignment with our creator, who then gives us the words to say, and we allow our words to go out and impact. So have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for joining me. If you have any questions, or if you have any questions based on this topic, if you have published and you have some experience, put it in the comment below. Share it with us. If you have things you want to publish or you have fears, share. Let's have a conversation. But the most important thing is share your writing with the world, because we need to hear your voice and we need to hear what you want to say so that you can unlock the writer within. Thank you for being with me this week. See you next week when we talk about the differences between traditional publishing versus self-publishing. See you next week.